Hi sewing friends, welcome to my sewing room. My name is Beth, and if you're new, welcome. Today I finished my $1 quilt. It began with the pink sheet. I do have a video that I'll link below on how I put the blocks together. Today I got it all done and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. Let's get started. This beautiful quilt began with a pink sheet, and I do have two videos that I have previously shared with you about how I made the blocks and then how I put it all together, and today I'm quilting it and binding it. So first I got my big roll of batting and it's folded in half on the roll. So what I do is I lay my quilt right on that folded piece of batting, and I put the width of the quilt because it should be plenty long with the two halves of this batting here. And I'll use the quilt as my guide, and then I'll open up the batting and I'm going to be attaching it first to the front of my quilt. I brought the quilt to the table in my sewing room, and I'll be using this 505 spray, a very light little bit of this spray I put on the batting, and then I'll smooth the quilt top on top of that. And I'm beginning at one end. Sometimes I start in the middle, but today I'm starting at the end, so I'll have to roll that quilt top right back to where I started, and I can kind of tell where my spray is at the beginning there, and then I'll just do this section by section and get the whole quilt top attached to the batting. It's appropriate that I'm using a backing that's also a cotton sheet that I found at the thrift store for $5, which was a pretty good bargain considering all of the fabric that you need really to purchase for a backing. I think this quilt would have required 3 or 4 yards of fabric. So I was happy to use this sheet that's really cute and goes along with the front of my quilt top. Before quilting on my quilt, I made myself a little practice piece here because I'm going to be doing some circles in each quilt block, and I wanted to see how my tension was, see if it would work out okay, and this is basically the design I'll be using in each of the quilt blocks. Starting in the middle, I'm just going to be going around and around in each of the quilt blocks, and I will not be quilting in the pink border there. I just want to keep my stitches. I'm using a white thread, and I'll be stitching just in this where these strips are. Here's what it looks like on the back. These are not perfect circles, they're just kind of like doodles. Then I decided I would try some gloves. Some of you have mentioned that you prefer using garden gloves. They have that little bit of grip in it on the inside palm area, so I thought I would try some gloves this time with this pattern. I thought it might be easier to move the quilt around, and I did use it for a few of the blocks and then decided that gloves really are not for me. They might grip a little bit better. I'm not sure that they do though. I like to feel the quilt and find out if there's any, bumps on the back, and I don't like taking the gloves on and off as I work. Also with the camera, I have to take them off every time I turn the camera on and off, so it was kind of a bit of a chore to use the gloves, and in the end I decided not to use them. Getting all of my circles into my square quilt blocks, I changed thread. I put some pink thread in my machine, and now I'm going to go through all of the pink borders, sashing pieces, and I'm going to just do this simple back and forth little line, curvy line going back and forth right from side to side in all of the sashing pieces here, and then I'll do the same thing on that thin border going around the outside of the quilt. After doing all of the pink sashing and borders, I went back and I started working on all of these half squares. They're sort of triangle shapes, and I'm putting half of a circle, some arcs in here, some curved lines. So I'm going from one side to the other, and then I just stitch along the seam there to get out farther, and then I make a larger arc just to fill in all of those corner triangles. This quilt has taken quite a while to quilt. I've been working on it all day today, and I was really happy when I got to the border. So for the border, hope you can see I'm just going back and forth in a curvy line, just like I did with that pink thread in the sashing strips, and this would just be a larger curvy line, just going back and forth and filling in the very outside border of this quilt. Now all that's left is to trim this quilt, get the excess batting and backing trimmed away, and then I will add a binding. I had a little bit of trouble looking for a binding for this quilt. It would have been really nice to have some of that pink sheet left over, but I used every little bit of that pink sheet, and I do not have any pink fabric that's exactly like this pink, but thankfully I thought it would be nice to have a pink binding that kind of went along with it, and I did find some fabric here. I'm trying really hard not to purchase fabric. I thought if I don't find pink, I'm going to have to use maybe a lighter color that won't stick out so much, but I did find a pink fabric that I think will go along nicely with this quilt, and I got all of my binding strips joined together, and then I put the binding, I attached it to the back of the quilt, I rolled it to the front, and then I top stitched all the way around. I do have videos on how I do my binding, so I'll leave those links below because I won't be giving you a lot of details in this video here today. my quilt is all ready to go. I just need to add a label, and this one's going to a granddaughter who has a birthday right around the corner, so I did have a deadline, and of course deadlines help you get things done, don't they? Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.